Hanging out, just another night of the week. Or to be more specific, it's Tuesday Eve. Got some ideas that just might intrigue. You should come on by tonight. We're spilling the beans.
Hi, everybody. We're here. We're spilling the beans. We're beaning. We're convening. We've got a new face, new friend joining us tonight.
It's a pleasure to be here.
That's right. We have our good friend Justin. You may have seen him in the chat. He's been very active and a fan of this show, would you say?
Yeah, big fan.
Brilliant. Well, it's good. I'm really excited and really happy to be here. And welcome. Thank you for popping on if you have. Let us know, as usual, if there are any audio issues.
Yes,
We will
Yes,
adjust.
yes.
We're
Please
still
let us
getting
know.
used to stuff. So yeah, last week it was just me.
the lone bean.
Alone, a lonely bean. This week,
Not a lot of beans spilled.
this week we're full of beans. It's great. Yeah. So we have Justin here, we have Kaylee here, I'm
We have
feeling
Connor
good.
Here.
We have me here. Abel, we miss you.
Mhm.
I hope this week has been just as good as last week. If last week was good, if last week wasn't good, I hope this week is better. I hope if it was good last week, I hope this week's better. So excellent. So today we're gonna do some book cover art.
Which was Justin's idea.
Yeah. A couple episodes back.
Yeah. It's this is great. Oh, and Abel's on now. He's been waiting all day. Wonderful. Cool. Well, yeah, so we're gonna do book cover art. It's Justin, what's I don't know, what was like your thought when you thought of book cover art, or what does book cover art do for you? As you are quite the avid reader. You're a very bookish person.
I do. My buddy Connor decided to join.
Connor.
But yeah, so I've always been an avid reader, especially of the sci-fi, fantasy, a bunch of like the more niche genres within that area, like lit RPG. And one of the things that they've always done really well, or this genre's always done really well, is like cover art for the books. You see a lot of books these days that are coming out, and it's very like minimalist in the art. And for people that like to have a bit more like of that visual, for those of us who like stories that do a lot of world building, it kind of just helps set the scene if it has really good cover art. So it's kind of a mesh of my love of reading and sci-fi. So
Yeah. So you so do you prefer obviously like a more detailed, like what am I about to read? Let's say fresh into a book, you have no idea of the story. You like having kind of like a picture right there in front of you, some because I assume the authors too, and I'm ignorant to it, but I assume authors approve of certain, of a cover, or the publishing company, that is, I guess, too.
Oh, yeah.
So
Does the author generally have input? I imagine they do, right?
yeah, it's usually like a mixture between like the author and the publisher. So it's like usually like the publisher is the one that goes out and like sources the artist for them. But then it's like the artist that gets kind of like the final say and really like helps the artist place like what the imagery is like for that story. So yeah,
that's cool. And it's for me it was graphic novels.
Oh, yeah.
So because it's more difficult for some to read, than others, or especially like if you didn't read a lot, I feel, as a kid, it's a little more difficult as you're growing up as an adult. Like I still meet people my age and I totally get it. They say I don't read books, and I feel bad, but at the same time it's a thing. Maybe they do math, who knows? I have no idea. But for me, one thing that would captivate me to read a book was the book cover. So if it had a cool monster on it, Goosebumps was great with that.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, and I
Goosebumps
should have,
is awesome with
we
that.
should have brought in some Goosebumps. It's sci-fi, it's horror.
Oh,
Goosebumps
yeah.
was really, really good. at that.
You could always pull some up on
yeah,
after,
definitely. Yeah, I'll pull some up when this is good and ready to wake up.
Mhm.
But yeah, they were just, it was so as a kid, it gets me to want to read it. It's definitely an advertisement. It's almost a billboard for the book in a way too.
Yeah.
There you are. And then you also have I think, and I wonder, for the more minimalist book covers, which the designs, I'm like, whoa, this is a cool design. I'm sure like there's some kind of metaphor to the book, but even still, that's just it.
Yeah.
Is the publishing company or the author or both or one of the other saying, I want them to go in with like an even complete slate, like clean slate, like nothing, no visual, no, except for the title of the book, maybe.
Well, even looking at books that eventually become movies, you see
Right.
a lot of them, even if they had minimalist art to begin with, like after the movie comes out, they're like, all right, let's go back and like work the character from the movie into the cover art for like a relaunch of the series. I think they did something like that with some of like the Hunger Game books.
Yes, right.
I'm trying to think of other examples. They'll come to me eventually.
Master and Commander. We were just talking
yeah.
about the Russell Crowe movie. So my dad collected those books, the Patrick O'Brien collection. I think there's 10 or 12 books. They had awesome covers. He loved the covers. It was a very, 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 it was quite the timepiece, and it was very elaborate in the boats, even in the writing, but also in dad would talk about how accurate the boats looked in the drawings on the front and on the cover. And when Master and Commander came out, the third book, I think, or second of that series, it had Russell Crowe in it.
Yeah.
So that third book, when he went to get it, didn't have that classic, and he used to know the artist too. It didn't have that classic, style at all. I mean, it was a picture of Russell Crowe. My dad's like, I don't want to fucking look at this guy. That's not who I think about when I think of
Russell Crowe's great. Okay.
Well, yeah. Punches my dad through the book. No, yeah. So my dad's like, I don't want to look at Russell Crowe when I go to read this book. And that was one of his favorite books, and that might be why they made the movie. It was one of, although their dad would also argue that the rest were awesome too. But so it's interesting.
Or think like Narnia, The Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, and stuff like that. They went back and redid some of that cover art after those movies came out.
And it's just kind of like photoshopped of the movie, scenes of the movie.
Or it's like kind of like a painted scene and then like a hyper realistic face. Like the actor.
Yeah, some weird ones. Do you guys remember the Animorph?
Oh yeah.
So when you would move it was holographic,
Yeah.
and it would change into the animal the kid was. All right, I was saying we need a part 2. We'll do a part 2 of like kids kind of sci-fi, or at least ones for younger generation. But tonight we've got physical books to show. That's why you see some of the stuff here. This is like, we've got some cool cameras to look at that. Justin's got a few books. I've got a couple. Well, I've got one. Kaylee has one. I've got one, and then I've got a couple on the computer. And I got a little slideshow of some stuff. Early '90s stuff was killer. John's saying, and in the slideshow, I've got more. Okay, I'll pull them up, John. Abel. Yeah, and I've got some stuff that's a little bit older, 60s, 70s, 50s, that we'll take a look at. But yeah, let's kick this off.
Yeah.
So
Gotta adjust this right here.
yeah, we gotta adjust this. So I'm gonna have this camera. I'm gonna help adjust some of this stuff. While Justin, if you want to talk about some of your things here, do you want me to do?
That should be good, right?
Yeah, that should be real nice. All right, look at that.
So talking about like early '90s, this one's actually a bit more of late. It's a bit more late '90s. This particular novel, and for those of you who live in the Northeast, it's basically a book about the island of Nantucket being sent back to 3000 BC. So it's like 1999 Nantucket, and how they like survive all the way back in time. It has a lot of nautical elements, and I feel like this kind of, this cover art right here, it kind of like sets the scene in the way that you're essentially seeing someone in an outfit that it's like the artist rendition of someone from the 3000 BC that they basically picked up from Alba, which is basically Britain, in this series, on a really realistic, kind of almost modern-esque ship deck. So it really kind of like set the scene for a little bit of what was going on later on in the novel, which I really appreciated as someone who really loved like those kind of visuals, and for someone who really loves world building in their novels.
Nice. It's funny. He is it me or does he look like Dustin Hoffman a little bit? Even though I know it's supposed to be
a little
a
bit.
young Dustin Hoffman.
Well, it probably was right around that time when his likeness was just about everywhere.
Really?
So
Okay.
I like the way the title's set back too, and that little blurb is like on the sail.
Yeah.
It really like blends
It's an
into
interesting. Yeah, that's cool, and that's something you don't see too often. I mean you do, but that's like a pretty large quote taking up a good chunk of that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
I really like that. Yeah, that's very cool. Oh yeah, this camera can move too. Cool, very nice.
Wow.
Oh, that's cool. So let's see. We've got a lot to. Oh, this one looks great. This looks like could be a book about
All with honor.
Yeah. So this one I more picked out because of like how much detail there is within it. This is I will say this is a book I read probably going on 10 years ago now. Essentially, humanity falls to a race of vampires that kind of like enslaves humanity.
I like Earth is under new management.
Yeah. They always had like those kind of like little corny, like almost pickup lines to the books, which was fun. But so something I was kind of mentioning to Connor and Kaylee was that essentially, I find that a lot of modern like sci-fi books, as we're kind of talking about, they're going for that very minimalist vibe. And this is just an example of going in with a bit more detail to the point where it gives you an idea of like what the setting is. You see this caravan of people like going off into the distance while this like kind of like lone warrior type is like watching over them. It just sets the scene so much more than a little emblem does.
Right.
There was another like vampire, but it was more like I want to say like a teenage drama series around the time that it would just be like a vampire smiley face.
Yeah.
And to see like that on a shelf next to something like this, when I was walking through the Barnes and Nobles or Borders, going through those aisles, like looking at books, that always kind of really appealed to me way more than those very minimalist styles.
Which is funny because it's kind of almost like the opposite of like movie previews. Like, you see a trailer for something and it shows you the whole movie and you're like, okay, well, I've seen it now,
I've gotten all the major points. I don't need to see it anymore.
But with a book, it's like, okay, I got to see what this is about. Just by like, with the more detail, the more you're drawn in, as opposed to with like a trailer for something, they give you too much and it's like kind of like off-putting in a way, which is interesting.
Yeah, and I think it's possible too. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the publishing company, has something to do with it, and who knows, like the artist or the author might say, I just want this, I didn't, what is all of this, but but it's cool. I don't know if you can see too, that's another whole other point to books is like, this is what's it called, bezeled, so you can kind of feel it, you know what I mean? And that's almost another show in itself. Kind of like we've talked about art that you can feel, things that you can feel. There's
more like tactile.
And visually it literally looks like it's popping out. But yeah, that's a really nice one. It actually kind of reminds me too of like a Settlers of Catan, like like the cover of a game or something there.
Like it's just like that caravan style.
Caravan, right. Oh, that's neat. That's really good.
Taylor said NES games had great art as well, way better than actual game graphics. Yeah,
Truly.
Right. And we talked about that too. I mean, I was always disappointed as a kid. I didn't have the games my friends did, so I'd go over to their house to play a video game.
Mhm.
And I was actually kind of disappointed by most video games because they look nothing like, what was it? Jurassic Park. There's
Mhm.
an awesome looking Velociraptor on the front of it. I'm
Yeah.
playing, it's like 4 dots. Like, jumping up and down
Chasing
on
you
the
around.
screen with some other dots. You know, I don't know. That's a great point. That's another good. Yep, John, Goosebumps. Yeah, we mentioned that earlier. Definitely. That's another show in itself. You know, like cool game.
Well,
NES
you think
games.
about for example, like Lord of the Rings, they did a Battle for Middle Earth, which was basically like a real-time strategy game.
Yep.
They would put in cutscenes from the movie like throughout the game as like you're playing through the campaign, and it was just so funny to see it going from like a cut of the movie that looks awesome to like the kind of crappy graphics that you got for like all your little like orc or Gondorian soldiers running around. Try and zoom in on one of them and it's like you can't even see a face.
Yeah. It all starts to and even that's another topic in itself. The fun differences between the advertised game or whatever to the graphic. It'd be cool if we can do a cool compare and contrast. That's a good idea.
The
That
stuff
would be
that they
cool.
use to pull you in.
Yeah, exactly. This one looks really cool. I like it specifically because I'm an archer.
Yeah.
This one's really nice.
And one of the
cool.
cool things about this one, it's the publisher for is actually Wizards of the Coast, which is responsible for just about everything D&D, Dungeons and Dragons these days.
Oh wow!
So I think this is one of their a result of one of their series that was really trying to draw people into doing D&D in the late 90s, early 2000s. A lot of stuff about dragon riders and dragon slayers and things like that. But it also kind of gave me there's another one from the same series that if we have enough time later on I'll show, but it almost gives the original Lord of the Rings like token Hobbit animation style.
Whoa.
Which I always thought was really interesting for those.
Right.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
I didn't even think, and I forget sometimes that there are backs of these too, which is kind of like I like that. That's definitely got some Lord of the Rings feels to it.
Yeah, like that texture to it.
Look at those dragons.
Yeah,
it's scales.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, neat.
Yeah.
These are like scales. I actually for a second thought they were like clouds, but you're right, they are scales.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Oh man, let's back up.
Look at those little details. Oh,
this is my hairy arm. All right. Wow. Yep. Oh man, that is so cool. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I'm also kind of a dragon nerd personally. I remember what was it? Dragonheart with Sean Connery.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You folks got to watch Dragonheart if you haven't seen it.
Reign of Fire as well.
Reign of Fire is a great one. Have you seen Reign of Fire?
Maybe a long time ago. If I have.
Oh man.
Was that Christian Bale in that? Yeah, it was Christian Bale.
And Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah.
That's this like badass
kind of jockey military guy, U.S. military guy.
Yeah, he was this U.S. bald, really cut. Jamar, what's up?
Hey, Jamar.
Dragonheart, Connor. I'm telling you, that's good stuff. Yeah, Dragonheart was good. For me as a kid, I liked Sean Connery too, just the voice. I was a big fan of Highlander. So I was right there with I love Dragonheart, Highlander, and swords.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, Dragonheart was right there.
Being a young kid with swords and bows, it's like whoa.
Yeah, exactly. That's really cool. But I really like this one. This one's neat. I didn't even notice the scales. Like it's those little things that are just like it's really, really cool. And then also, of course, 2 Dragons Part 2. That's really, I don't know, just clever little things. That's great. And folks, let me know if this mic's working. I think it is. I think I set it up right. All right, let's see what we got next. This one looks cool.
Yeah, so this one this is like really more of like a
Whoa.
reprint, because they decided to put all 3 of the books into one kind of chronicle.
Hmm.
And I want to say it's originally from like the mid to late 80s. But super, super interesting, very dark series, I will say. It's essentially like these guys are the bad guys, but not intentionally, and they're just trying to make like the best out of a bad situation. Um, and they do some kind of horrible things along the way. But some of the cover art that came out from the series, I wish I had the like individual books of like 1, 2, and 3, because some of the cover art from the like the original books was just absolutely amazing. But this kind of just gives you like a taste of it.
Yeah,
Gives you that like dark feel.
yeah. There's some like ruin kind of like symbols, like and sigils.
Yeah, kind of like that
behind this.
grittiness that you would kind of like expect of guys kind of put into the role of the bad guys,
Yeah.
forced into the role of the bad guys.
It's like a really cool painting too. That and I'm curious. Like right away, I'm curious about those ruins behind it. Oh, and I noticed that dude in the bottom left shadow there. What's he doing back there? I like this a lot. This looks really.
Yeah.
Oh, and even behind it, looks like the depth. This goes further back into something, which I mean, you probably know.
Whoa.
Like, so reading the book, you can also look at the cover after you read the book and be like, oh,
That's who that is.
neat. Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah, so that's like that's one of the really cool things about it too.
Is there someone behind that guy too? Like right behind his shoulder?
Oh,
that a person, or is that
maybe.
just
Or is
looks
it
like it?
Probably because it's
thing?
like it's supposed to be like a company of them. And like
Okay.
as the series goes on, like they're dwindling in number, like fewer and fewer of them.
Yeah.
And they're kind of like, oh, we filled in with like a couple hundred guys that none of us really know. We don't feel much as brothers anymore.
Yeah. That's cool. Wow, that's a nice one. She's a scary looking lady, isn't she?
Yeah.
Dark goddess of death.
I wish
Whoa.
they didn't do it with the printed like sticker printed things on them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Same here.
They did a lot of that when they do like reprints and stuff like that, just to like let you know that hey, you're getting 3 for 1 in this one book.
Mm.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
I can't remember if there's anything on the back.
Just
a continuation of the
this
top
lady.
of it.
So she must be serious.
Whoa.
That's cool.
But yeah,
very cool. Wow, that's neat.
Yeah, that's a nice one.
Excellent.
Not as many like hidden like nuances into like the background itself, but a lot of nuance within like the main picture.
Yeah.
Right. Well, let's see. Oh yeah, this one looks awesome. All right, so this is Emperor of Thorns.
So this one.
Wow.
So
is this a picture?
It
might be.
I think it is.
That's great.
But essentially, it's a series that starts out with the Prince of Thorns, and he's kind of like a dark princeling that gets scorned. And each book in the series kind of has like, I think the first one's the Prince of Thorns, then it's the King of Thorns, and then this is the third installation where it's the Emperor of Thorns. Every single one of like the covers for this series is like him. The first one is him like standing almost in like sitting in a throne of thorns, and it's like super vivid and it's really cool. But I really like this one because essentially the guy becomes an emperor over a mountain of corpses. And you can kind of get that through the art, and it kind of like sets you between this image and the previous novels. It kind of like sets you up for something big's gonna happen where a lot of guys are gonna die.
At first glance,
like how
it
much is he
looks
gonna
like thorns,
sacrifice?
too. Like the swords themselves look like thorns,
right?
And then you look closer and you're like, oh, it's swords and a bunch of dead people.
Yeah.
So lots of dark sci-fi stuff. I promise not all of it's dark. Some of it can be fun and more exploration style. But
this is really good. Yeah, lots of dead bodies in that one.
Yeah, that one.
Thorns.
Yeah.
Really cool. It's a neat one.
if you like a bit more of like the dark and grimy sci-fi, I have a lot of suggestions.
Nice. I like this one a lot. This one's like really neat. This does look like one of the. This looks like one of the. A little bit of the mix of Photoshop and it's interesting how they use. Oh, let me show it. It's interesting how they use.
Wow.
You know what I mean? This is really cool. So it's like it looked at first like more of a
A novel of the chain.
a painting, but as you get closer, I mean, it may in fact be, but that's
Is that James Vanderbeek?
Well, I know this book came out, I think around 2003, 2004, I want to say. And actually it's I guess like a parallel series to the first book that we showed, That Island in a Sea of Time. So it's what happened. It's basically the story of what happens to the rest of the world that Nantucket kind of left behind.
Wow.
So essentially Nantucket of the current day, which was like 1998, I want to say 1999 maybe, in the story, gets switched to the island from 3000 BC. But this one actually takes place on the west coast up in Oregon, up in like the Willamette Valley. And it's essentially a story of how the world collapses and people survive, and essentially all electricity, gunpowder, anything past like the most basic of like steam technology, like very low quality steam presses are the only technology that still works.
Wow.
So like everyone gets thrown back to like the medieval era. One group models themselves off of Vikings, another group models themselves off of like Scottish clansmen. Another one models himself off of like French knights. An old army captain decides to try and reform the United States via basically almost like a Roman Empire-esque faction. So if you're into like a lot of different directions that a novel can go into, this is a great series. There's like 25 books in it too. So
that's crazy. Yeah, it's like definitely a mix of like sci-fi and fantasy.
Yeah,
that's really neat. Yeah, this one's cool. I really like this one. And talk about like trying to get you and trying to sell like what the story is. Just a dude with middle age kind of like armor.
Yeah, some chainmail going on there.
And some, is that a horse and buggy in the back?
That's a bus. That's a city bus being pulled by horses.
Whoa.
Oh wow.
That's crazy.
So like they're trying to get that like, hey, it's, everything is going medieval, but there's still some remnants of the old world in there kind of vibe.
Wow.
Everything's bananas here. Wow, that is cool. That is really neat. I would, and in fact, that should just be the cover. It's just the horses carrying a bus.
I'm pulling a bus.
The book would go way up if they just showed. Like, get this guy out of here.
Put cute animals on there, and it's gonna be great.
Yeah, but especially it's just like a weird thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's see how close
now you
get.
can see the bus. Wow.
Rita, is that you?
Yeah, exactly. So get that guy out of here.
Same timing, right?
If they just, if this was just the book cover, I bet they would have sold 4 million more.
All the horse girls in the world.
Yeah, Yeah, that's great. So that's really cool. I really like this cover. This is a neat cover. There's definitely where it looks like there might be like a mix of painting and Photoshop in this one, because that looks like that might be a. Ooh, sorry to blast y'all with some very bright stuff.
Some bright white light.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah, it looks like it might be a mixture. Because the lighting is terrible. I love the shot, but see how he's getting lit from the side almost. Like that's a studio he's in. But that's where it's weird. It's like there's a mix here, you know? Yeah, I really like that. I love the photo itself, but I can tell with that just the technical eye in me, I can tell he's being studio lit, and then there's like some Photoshop. But I'm telling you, they should have just went with should have just gone with the buses and the horses on that one. But it's in the picture. Yeah. That's cool. I think that's yours.
Yeah.
Right,
Yep.
Cool. So
Sorry to take up so much of the show.
that's
great.
more than Kaylee and I have. So this one, I'll show this. This is called Project Pure Blood. This is actually my good friend Kyle. This is a cool book too. Ooh, let me zoom out a little more.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's his fire artist.
It looks like there's a face in the palm.
Yep, yeah, and I think they're supposed to be, but yeah, and this is a really cool book. This is a sci-fi book, kind of like adventure action book. Let's see if we can do picture. Look at that. So yeah, this is a cool sci-fi adventure book that takes place mostly in Japan. It's like back and forth, I think, between Japan and America. And I don't want to give anything away, and I'm also a very slow reader. So if Kyle ever watches this, he's also my boss. So I haven't sent him the link to this thing yet. But if ever he watches Kyle, I am there now, and I'm hoping to be finished before the end of the year. And happily, that's not long to come.
Mm-hmm.
So, but this is a really, really cool book. You can actually get this one on Amazon. Not to plug them or anything, but it's really good. Yeah, I can't give too much of it away, but I also couldn't if I wanted to. But I really like the design of this one too. They kind of just keep that artwork and I should ask Kyle, you know, what say he has in what goes on his book, on the cover of his book. That goes for also.
Yeah.
I mean, I think for more independent, artists, authors. Maybe it's easier to choose
Or
but
design
then
it themselves.
design
sort
it
of thing.
yourself, of course. Who else is going to design, or have a friend do it or something like that. And then maybe it's like, if the publishing company agrees, like, sure. Or if they say, actually, we had more in mind for this or whatever. But I should ask Kyle, yeah, like where the cover art came for this and how he decided, if he even did. But this is a really good one. Yeah, this is, it kind of goes, it's kind of like, if anybody's watched X-Files, like the Eve 6 program, or the Eve kind of thing, the child soldiers, really, really neat. So I guess I can go into it a bit. Yeah, based around a government program, these child soldiers, but there's also some cool like mysticism in it. It seems, their body types and how they take on certain enhancements, is all based on like a lineage of blood. They're like these kids from Japan so far, so they're like these kind of within their genes and the mixture of these like serums. They're kind of like super beings, and they're also trained, and they're child soldiers, so their memories wiped like all the time. That's another thing. Right? The government's always wiping these kids' minds so that they can't remember where they came from. But slowly it kind of makes its way through. Whoa. And when it does, it's really, really cool. It kind of reminded me of that movie Get Out.
Yeah.
Like how people who they trapped. What's that?
Oh, I know. I was like, oh.
Yeah. How when people were like trapped in their subconscious, they were still when they're in the sinking place. And they're stuck. But every now and then, when a light would flash,
it like breaks them out of it.
Breaks them out of it, and they're able to seep through, kind of. There's something like that going on with these kids, and you're rooting for them, but it also gets dark. It gets really, really dark. So yeah, Project Pure Blood. That's a cool one. It's on Amazon, cheap, and it's a local dude, so that's pretty cool. You want to do yours, Kaylee?
Oh yeah.
This one's.
And that's a graphic novel, so it's a little different, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's also a classic.
It is a classic, Slaughterhouse-5. Yeah, the artwork on this one is cool. Really
cool.
Yeah, it just kind of like puts you almost in like a trance as soon as you start looking at it.
And this is more, I'd say, like, I don't know, kind of, how would you say, direct and kind of symbolic, to the story, right?
Yeah.
And I think also the art. I wonder if the artist is the same.
Oh, the art in this is crazy. It's just like,
that cover art kind of gave me almost like War of the World vibes.
Yeah,
Definitely.
definitely.
Yep,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the artwork itself throughout the whole thing is just very like it really just like pulls you in, you know, because it's such a visceral book to begin with. So
Right.
then to put a visual to it, and it's like, oh wow, yeah, I was kind of seeing that, you know, when
Yeah.
I was reading like the original, you know, it's like, yeah,
No,
it's
this is
really, really neat one.
Really good. I'm sorry for my dirty hands. I was working with cables all day, so my fingernails get dirty sometimes.
That's
I
okay.
should have.
Hardworking hands.
That's all it is. Yeah, these look great. This looks really cool. Well,
That's awesome.
Yeah, this is the graphic novel of Slaughterhouse 5. Really, really good.
Isn't it still like one of the most banned books in America, or the most banned
Really?
book?
I think it might be.
Yeah.
It's definitely up there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is crazy, you know, because it's like, I don't know. I feel like they're maybe not similar books, but yeah, I feel like there's
people are out there trying to ban Harry Potter because it has magic in it.
Oh
so
my
like,
insane. That's so crazy.
And that's something that oh
yeah.
And that's something that, you know, the censorship and everything, that's wild. And you know, I wonder if there's any kind of trick, you know what I mean? Like if there's a trick to get around some kind of censoring, you know, with like showing almost like the exact opposite of a book cover than what the book will be. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, they get banned definitely.
like putting cute puppies on
Yeah.
the cover of this.
Right.
You
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
1984 is one of the most frequently banned books.
1984.
Oh my gosh, this list is crazy.
That's terrifying.
To Kill a Mockingbird, Of Mice and Men, Catcher in the Rye, The Color Purple, Lord of the Flies.
Yeah, all books that. Yeah, that's wild. That's scary.
Harry Potter.
Is that in America?
The Giver.
Or just in the world?
I don't know.
It's funny. Like someone said.
I think that's more America.
Yeah.
That's wild. And there's all kinds of things too with Harry Potter. I think that author too has said things and gotten backlash for that.
Yeah.
So then they'll ban those. Like, you know, that's more of what's it called? Boycott, right? That's more of like a boycott type thing. Ban.
Charlotte's Web got banned because parents in a Kansas school said talking animals are blasphemous and unnatural.
Well, they got a point. They do have a point. Oh man. Well, that's wild. I would have never guessed any of that. Especially like now. You know, I mean, it's I kind of get it. Well, I mean, yeah, you understand that it happened in the 30s, 40s, but
there are definitely ways to get around it a lot more now. Like, you know, I know there was a big thing in the news not too long ago about a group of people on Minecraft, the game Minecraft. They essentially built what they ended up titling like the world library in the game, and basically as a player of that game, because that game is rarely censored in almost any country. So it's like the game itself isn't censored. You can go in the game to this world library and read books that you wouldn't be able to read in your country.
That's so cool.
And it's just awesome. Like,
Yeah,
you know, if you're
awesome.
in a place that like has like a ban on books, like, you know, 1984, you want to go and read that, you can, you know, I think Minecraft is actually free on a lot of like PC computers and things like that. You know, so it's very accessible. And it has a huge player base beyond that. But you know, it supposedly, you know, the creators of it are like, every book and article that we can get our hands on, we've been putting it into that library for years.
Whoa.
And they're constantly updating it. It has like a dedicated group of people that do it.
That's
so
I love that. That's really, really great.
Some fun knowledge for all y'all.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's great. Yeah, and it's kind of like I said, like a to ban a book. I feel like 1984 is scary. You know what I mean? It's scary that
super
any kind of
scary.
government, it's kind of ironic
Yeah.
for like any kind of government of any kind of like school system or anything to choose, oh, don't we're going to ban this book on, you know, government, like the worst case
On
scenario
government censorship.
of government censorship, right? We're gonna censor that. Like, oh, don't tell them about that. It's wild. Yeah, that's but it's also like yeah, it's just crazy. That's again, that's censorship's a whole other topic we could do. And so I guess I'll show just a couple more of the slides that I had for like some books.
Yeah.
Vonnegut, more Vonnegut books. Just a few. Let's see if this is working.
Oh, we gotta plug it in.
Oh, let's plug me in. Yeah. Thanks, though. All right. Yeah. So
It's not on there yet.
no, that's all right. There we go. Should be good now. There we are. Sci-fi book cover art. There's Troy McClure. So let's see if we can do picture on here.
Dun dun. Dun dun.
Oh. It's a blackout, folks.
Yeah, blackout. Sorry about that. There we go. I hit the wrong thing. Yeah, there we go.
Oh, cool.
All right, great. So this one's really neat. Speaking of 1984,
Wow.
look at that picture. That looks so awesome. That's like, you know, that's collage work, right? So that's definitely an imposed eye there. That's Germano Facchetti. He's done quite a few things. He didn't just do like sci-fi or these types of books, but he did do kind of like a more minimal, but still very artistic style. Fabric of the Heavens, I believe that's like kind of an astrology or a history of astronomy, which basically is astrology. But I just loved that that cover.
Looks like you got a little Copernicus in the corner there.
Yeah.
At the bottom right.
Yeah. Really, really cool. And let's see what else I got. So these just look awesome. There's this guy, Frank Frazetta, who's done, I'm sure, tons of album artwork, book cover artwork, and this reminds me a lot of it. But this is Bruce Pennington, and this just looks so effing cool. Like the Horn of Time looks amazing. That, like, look at the fading. That the creature looks wicked cool. Looks like a trident maybe it's holding. Like these other worlds, kind of, you know. It's like an artist interpretation of the book. You know what I mean? Kind of
gives like big like swamp creature or
yeah,
even like almost Gollum-esque vibes.
It does. It really does. Yeah, definitely the one on the left. The one on the right, you got that cool looking dragon-like creature, like
then
dinosaur.
The spaceship just going across the sky. Like
I love the sunset and what's that called? Atmospheric perception, I think is what it's called in painting, or you know, showing that mist and those layers to give it that beautiful depth.
Oh, there's a few UFOs.
Yeah,
too,
see, like there's
like
actually like a ton of them. That one might be different, or maybe it's crashing, or you know, it's wild, but it's kind of neat. It's like you kind of get the story right off the bat. Like there's this like weird looking, primitive looking animal here, and then here comes the cavalry. You know, really, really cool. Those are just, I mean, just beautiful looking. I thought those were really cool.
When they learned of a rogue planet 400 years ago.
Yeah. This was just so cool. So Mask of Cthulhu, great book. But this is Pennington, same dude that did these.
Wow.
Now this one is intriguing, and every time I look at, an interesting thing about Cthulhu is there's not a lot of description in like the original Lovecraft story. It just says Cthulhu looks like. It just says a mountain, and I'm paraphrasing, but from what I remember, like a mountain was moving. A mountain moved. That was like a big thing. So just this gigantic thing, like massive being. Yeah. So, and with that, and then you can take on other interpretations, which either from other stories have gone off of what he says, because he does use other descriptions of other animals and other beings in his stories. And again, there might be a little more, but he really didn't give much to the like you had to use your imagination like in a really cosmic way of what Cthulhu looked like.
Like he must have at some point like mentioned like something about like a cephalopod or something like that, because like every single like image that you see of him is like always like very tentacly.
Right.
So I wonder if they like he just did like a slight mention of it at some point.
Well, he had a ton of creatures that were, he definitely had a fear of aquatic animals.
Yeah.
That was absolute, because most of his cosmic, and he might have, and I could be wrong in this, but he might have been one of the first to write about like cosmic entities, like gods, like in this horror way, like coming here, or this extremely ominous, depth, this idea of something so large, it's the size of a you can't fathom it, you couldn't even see it, it's so big, it'd be the sky, it's that big, making and so it's just really cool, dimensional, he goes into dimensional things, which is cool.
Does he do that with I think it's like the Yellow Prince, or like the Prince in Yellow?
Yellow King. Yeah, King in Yellow.
The King in Yellow.
Yeah, and so
madness.
that's a wild poem.
Madness.
Yeah, that's really good. So and that's in the same universe. People would say that's in the Lovecraft universe. Really, really cool stuff. And a very odd guy indeed. But this is, I just thought, a really cool, again, yeah, it goes to that old Cthulhu squid looking kind of head with like wings that are almost too small for it. And there's a really cool statue in the back. So it's like the Mask of Cthulhu. I think this book, I could be wrong, is about the cult of Cthulhu. But and there have been so many cool books and things on that.
Wow.
Just a couple more. I think this is my last slide. So this is a couple of Vonnegut's Sirens of Titan. I mean, just so awesome. It's one of my favorite books, but these pictures, especially the one on the right, really like the coloring and the imagery was just exactly what was kind of in my head when I was reading it. I mean, the one on the left too, I suppose, but
the flatter kind of coloring is like more disturbing in a way.
It is, and it's more it is, and see how, though it is flat, but with that gradient and that green and this and literally Saturn being like, that's when I was reading the book, and then having that kind of gold contrast, like this green to yellow, I had that throughout most of the book, like this coloring of like green and yellow, which I just I don't know, I saw that cover at one point. I'm pretty sure I had both of these copies of books, but I lost them to probably
like the robot dog on the and then the regular dog on the right.
Yeah, really, really neat. And the left side goes more into like the story,
the sirens,
right? But just so cool. That's like 60s 50s sci-fi book cover art. That's just, it's painted,
and correct me if I'm wrong, but on the left it's a lot of like orange and blue.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's right. I'm sorry, Justin.
So,
yeah,
I'm very colorblind to give everyone. So I think it's also very ironic that I'm doing a section on cover art when I'm very colorblind.
That's good.
But
yeah, it's like orange and like purples over there.
Those green colors. I would feel I would get more of that from like the sirens, because you think sirens are like kind of like these mermaid creatures
aquatic.
That they're typically like around like small islands or like outcroppings in the water where you're probably gonna have like a lot of like seaweed and stuff like that. Like think like someone coming out of the water like draped in kelp.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And there is definitely like a space aquatic feel to the one on the right. Absolutely, yeah. Sirens are interesting too. I was thinking about sirens the other day after watching I had a little bit of time while doing laundry, so I watched The Lighthouse.
Oh, nice.
And I saw that mermaid type creature that's in it, that's kind of in it. And it got me thinking about sirens and how you see all kinds of forms of them in movies and things like that. And it's kind of creepy, this like creature that like sings in the water in the fog.
Oh yeah.
And
lures
boats into shallow waters.
We could do a whole like segment just on like cryptids and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you know, mythological creatures
Oh,
and
that'd be
things
so
like that.
cool. Yeah, that would be
That
so
would be a
cool.
fun one.
Yeah, that's one we should aim for the next time you come over or something like that. That'd be really, really neat.
Heck, that or video games, sign me up.
Yeah?
And either one of those topics.
Cool. Oh, that's great.
And then I'll be tapped out of like things that I feel like I'm actually a subject
Well, you'll be
person
you'll
on.
be you'll be a regular on here, so we'll have you back just the same. Yeah, no, that's really cool. Just like, I mean, we've talked about cryptids and stuff, but I mean, we haven't even mentioned sirens or mermaids or not inlay, but we could literally take every week, and this week we're talking about sirens and other stuff, you know.
We can talk about werewolves and bring in some B-roll horror movies
Yeah.
as well.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, that'd be fun.
We could do so many cool stuff. Yeah, so many cool things. Yeah, that's lovely.
Like one of the episodes when I was talking about dog soldiers.
Yeah.
It's like,
Oh man.
B-roll werewolf movie.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And also like talk about cover art. I think it'd be fun. So we were talking about book cover art, but then like early 90s cover art, kids cover art, that'd be fun. Or like interactive book cover art, like the Animorphs with the hieroglyph with holograph, you know, with the moving picture.
VHS like movie.
VHS covers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have well, weird flex, but I have like an entire collection of like a lot of like the Disney originals like in the VHS from like when I was a kid that like we never really opened any of them.
Whoa.
They're completely like unopened.
That's
and some of
valuable.
them they're valuable, but I think, well, hopefully one day I plan on selling them for a very nice premium. But until that day, they are like cool to look at, but I don't you know, it's a lot of like Disney animation. I feel like you can get like a lot more of like a wider selection, especially if you go to somewhere like a Goodwill or like a Savers. I'm sure they probably have some like VHSs like hanging on a back shelf or something like that that you could probably look at and see like, ooh, that one has cool art attached to it. Like Titan AE. That was a really cool one that everyone thought was associated with I think they thought it was associated with Disney. But it was another studio, and it was like kind of like if you know like the style of animation that they did for Treasure Planet. It was like one of the early, I want to say like one of the early movies that mastered that style of animation. Like I want to say it was late 90s. I want to say it was like 98 that it came out, and it was way ahead of its time with its animation.
Connor, you should pull it up on your.
Yeah,
definitely.
definitely.
You should look at it. I remember seeing that in theaters when it came out.
And what was that?
Titan AE.
Titan AE. Oh, let's see. All right.
Man of Steel.
Oh, is that up?
Superman. Yeah.
Where was that?
Huh?
Where was that?
It's right. It's on the screen.
Oh, yeah. They're not seeing what I'm seeing.
Wrong window.
Did you put? Oh, there we go.
There we are.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I haven't seen this movie in so long. I remember it though.
2000.
Dang.
Yeah, it's a bit younger than I thought it was.
That is really cool animation though. Whoa.
Yeah, you know what? That looks like Pocahontas animation, late 90s.
So if you go up and all the way to the left where they're kind of like reaching out like that.
Yeah.
That was, I think, some of like the initial animation that was on like the VHS. Of course it's gonna.
Good Lord.
I think the studio that developed like that style of animation ended up getting bought out by Disney. But I think when it was released, it wasn't owned by Disney.
I see. Wow.
Oh yeah, Disney Plus now. Wow.
Yeah, I do.
Awesome classic if you want to check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Titan AE. Cool. All right. Nice. I must have missed this as a kid.
Yeah. Kind of gives like a similar vein as like almost like a Treasure Planet-esque kind of
Cool. I
story.
do remember Treasure Planet. And would that have come out around the same time as Atlantis? The Lost City of Atlantis. Remember that came out?
It would have come out like probably
Yeah,
a couple years after.
Yeah. Because that was really neat. I really enjoyed, and the characters even look the same.
2001, Atlantis: The Lost Empire. Yeah, that was 2001.
Atlantis Lost
Empire. Yep.
Yeah, see, there's very similar imagery there. Even this dude looks the same as the last. See his haircut?
Oh yeah.
Looks very, very similar. They reused characters all the time, and yeah,
This was one of my favorite styles of animation too.
Yeah.
And there's actually like a super like weird story behind why a lot of studios stopped doing this kind of animation.
Interesting.
Essentially I think it was considered 2D animation. But essentially all of like the premier animators decided to unionize. And the studios were like, we're not paying you. 3D animation might look crappier, but they're not union, so we can pay them way less for less quality and still make as much money. So that's kind of why you saw like a die out of like that 2D animation style in like the early 2000s,
Right.
which, you know, broke my heart personally as
Yeah.
someone who loved that style.
Gee.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
It's not surprising.
it's not
but-
surprising.
No, it's not
super
surprising. Especially given today's like union climate. and things like that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
right. Oh, that's wild. That's wild. How are we looking at for time?
56 minutes.
Oh, nice. Wow, that's a good chunk. Gee.
Yeah.
It goes by fast, doesn't it?
Yeah, that
it
was
really
awesome.
does. Are you still interested in reading your blog? I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah, I can do that.
You can do that? Do you want to?
Yeah,
You don't have to if you don't want to.
I'll do it.
Close this out. Do
Yeah.
it.
Kaylee, how about this too? Let me go to the website so they can see it.
See the blog?
Yeah.
Okay. There it is.
I'm excited. I don't think I've seen you do a reading of this.
So I wrote this one this morning, and I wrote it, and then it's kind of fitting because I lost the original. It's not too different, but I lost the original. Like I accidentally just deleted it, like right when I was almost done, and I was like, no, and I just sat for a minute, and I was like, I'm just not gonna do one. Just not gonna post it, you know. But then I was like, no. I was like, you remember like the gist of what you were saying, so like
Power through.
yeah, you can do it. So this one's called The Edge of the Fall. Sometimes nouns get lost. We announce ourselves and then slip through the cacophony of thoughts. That's why I was nervous about reading. I knew this was going to be a tough word to say.
You're doing great.
It's easy to lose definition when the seasons transition from the warm glow of blossoms and growth to the slow, steady decay and mostly gray days. But you know what? It's okay. Overcast skies can cloud the mind, and we can forget at times that the sun ever shines, even though it still resides. Decomposition, a natural condition, yet to witness it spoils us from enjoying the process of what it is to be alive. It takes time to make time for ourselves, and it can be hard as the frosty ground to keep afloat when you feel you're just bailing water from the boat. But don't fret. Sometimes all we can do is survive, and that in itself is thriving. And as it gets cold, hold yourself close. Feel the warmth inside and let it ignite. Watch the mind clouds pass by, and you know what else? Don't forget you're doing all right. And that's it.
Woo!
Yeah, that was a tongue twister one. I was like, the cacophony. Man, that's a hard word to say.
Felt very fitting given the season. and
Yeah.
that bit of that winter chill that's been hitting us all.
Exactly.
I thought it was beautiful. That was really, really nice. And a
Mm.
perfect way to wrap this up. Well,
Yeah.
Justin, thank you for doing this. This was a really good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
this
It was
is
really,
great.
really great.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, of
Oh,
course.
It was awesome to be on here.
And
Yeah.
you'll have to come back.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll think of other fun ones too. Jamar, we still want to get you over here. We've had
Mhm.
Taylor on. Anyone else who wants to be a guest, that'd be great.
I said it last time when Taylor was here too. I think one day we'll just have like a round table with a bunch of us.
Oh,
here.
that'd be great.
It'd be really fun.
I would love that. And Abel, we still miss you terribly.
Mhm.
But glad things are going well out there. So from Justin, Kaylee,
And Connor.
and Connor,
Connor.
have a great night. Thanks for joining, and stay weird.
Mhm.
Have a good night, y'all.
Good night, everybody.
Hanging out just another night of the week. Or to be more specific, it's a Tuesday Eve. Got some ideas that just might intrigue. You should come on by tonight. We're spilling the beans.